This woman here is a fake. She has no powers at all. What you are looking at is a magic trick. It is just as fake as her silicone chest. Look at her face. Look how she is acting. She is nothing but a charlatan trying to deceive you to make you believe that she has psychic powers and can make objects move. This is an old trick, and I can't believe that she was stupid enough to create this video to make it look like she has some supernatural powers and can make objects move. If she really had powers or can do telekinesis, she will not have to place that piece of paper on a needle. She can just put an object on the table and move it. Do not be mentally weak, gullible, and fall for this old deceptive trick. Mentalist, illusionist, magicians do not claim to have any psychic powers or supernatural powers of the paranormal. They admit that what they are doing is a magic trick, and they do it for entertainment. This is the difference between them and the so-called psychics who do not have powers at all but lie to you to make you think they have powers when all they are doing is just a magic trick. I will show you some mentalists performing this same magic trick, and again, it's not real, it's just a magic trick. Note, there are different ways to perform this magic trick. I will repeat, there are different ways to perform this magic trick, and I will show you one right now.
Hey guys, Christian Vedder here, and today I want to teach you guys a trick. In this trick, it will look like you have telekinetic abilities and you can move things without touching them. This is of course just a trick, and it bases itself on science. There are three things you're going to need for this. It's a piece of paper, a cork from a wine bottle, a needle, and a warm cup of coffee or any other beverage. In this case, I use water. Step number 1 is cutting out a square piece of paper. The second step is folding up the paper diagonally so it becomes like a triangle. It's important that this is a square piece of paper, so cut off the edge if you see there's any extra paper on the sides. Then you fold it the other way, so in the end you'll end up with a square piece of paper with a cross in the middle. The next step is to take the cork and the needle. You place the needle into the cork, the sharp end of the needle is sticking out of the cork. Then you take the piece of paper and you place it on top of the needle. The only thing you have to do now is to put your hands on the side of the piece of paper and the trick will work by itself. Don't place the hands totally together, but leave some space in between your hands for air to come in. If the trick doesn't work, it might be because the room is too warm or your hands are too cold. Then you can take a cup of coffee and warm your hands on the cup of coffee, and then you can try again. Now the trick should work. This whole trick is based on science, and it works because your hands is warmer than the air in the room. So when you hold your hands on the sides, air will rush in underneath the piece of paper, and that makes the paper spin around. So try this trick for your friends, see what they say. They might also know about this trick from before.
Do you remember Uri Geller? He was another fake. He got caught by the cameras putting on a magnet to move the compass. These people who claim to have these powers get exposed all the time.
Hello, I'm James Randi. When I was a kid at summer camp, we older campers would spook out the newcomers by making a compass needle move magically. It can be done usually just by bringing any magnetic object, such as a regular pocket knife, near to it. Now remember that Uri Geller only knows 6 tricks, 5 magic tricks, and suing anyone who annoys him. Here's the video clip of Geller doing his compass moving trick in a TV studio in Israel. This video has had more than 1 million views on YouTube. For the first 50 seconds, we see Geller freely gesturing near the compass with both his hands. Nothing moves. He then has the audience count to 3 and shout at the compass twice, ostensibly trying to make it move, but it doesn't budge. In other words, it's behaving as a magnetic compass should. We see him openly putting on the thumb tip onto his left hand right in front of the audience. Now he's ready, and he spends some time fussing about and getting the audience to hold hands as if to build up the power, actually to misdirect attention from himself. Note that his left hand with the thumb tip plus magnet is always free because he has to use it. He keeps that hand well away from the compass. He suddenly brings it in above the instrument with his fist closed and the thumb tucked inside his fist. Now the compass moves, as he planned, and he announces success. It moved, by actual measurement, 11 degrees in rotation. Here we have a similar marine compass. A tag attached to it reads, "Caution, magnetic interference will affect the security of your compass" heading. You see, the manufacturers knew this fact too. Here I have a regular jackknife. Bringing it in close to the compass causes movement of some degrees. Watch. Now here's my thumb tip. Let's see what deflection I can cause using my own version of this ancient trick. It's showtime. Wow. Now, just how big is the magnet I used? That recent online article that I featured last week said that it would have to be large, remember? Not so, folks. You see, this is a trick within a trick. The thumb tip I used was not needed at all. Here's where the magnet was hidden, invisible and out of sight, merely taped to the heel of my hand. Now, I used transparent tape here, but I could have used opaque tape, flesh-colored, so you wouldn't see it at all. And how big is it? This big. Watch. So get yourself a tiny magnet, forget the thumb tip, and you too can become as good a psychic as Uri Geller. The other 4 tricks, believe me, they're just as easy. I'm James Randi. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, Bob, I feel it's a very serious matter to be
particularly raising a younger generation who are being led to believe by some incompetent and not very bright, in some cases, magicians and scientists at the same time, that there are such things as psychic powers. I've looked for it for a long time now, and I have not found anything in 35 years. And I think that particularly a younger generation being told that these things are real will not be raised in such a way that they can deal with a rational, logical, real world.
And you have offered $10,000 to anyone who can perform a psychic feat.
I have indeed, and I carry the check with me.
I hope you have the check with you tonight, because we have a young man who claims to be able to move objects with his mind. What I would like to have you do is to go backstage and watch carefully as I ask this young man to demonstrate his psychic powers.
Very well, I will.
Make yourself comfortable in front of a monitor. You are going to demonstrate this psychic power on That's My Line.
Yes.
What are you going to do, James?
I'm gonna move a pencil for you.
With just psychic powers?
Just psychic powers.
Very well. Here's a pencil, James. Show us. James, that pencil definitely moved. Now, is it true that you can also turn the pages of this telephone directory?
Yes, it is.
And you will do that for us?
I'll try.
Should I take the pencil off the table?
Yes.
All right. There you are, James.
You would like to open it to any page, or should you want me to do it?
I'll be happy to.
Okay, let's get it. I'll get it. Ready?
You turn the page of the telephone directory. Now, these demonstrations, you did these same demonstrations on That's Incredible.
Yes, I did.
And as you know, the amazing Randy maintains that you did not use psychic power, but that it was trickery. And he is prepared to pay you $10,000 if you can do it using psychic power. Now, you saw James' demonstration from backstage.
Yes, I did.
And do you accept that as a demonstration of psychic power, or do you believe that he used trickery?
I don't accept it as a demonstration of psychic power, Bob. I think that the solution is rather simple. I think that Mr. Heydrich is merely to accomplish this effect blowing on both the page and on the pencil.
I see. Now, you originally asked him to demonstrate in two different ways his psychic power. But as I understand it, you are now prepared to waive the demonstration with the pencil.
Yes, and the reason is rather simple, because the pencil reacts to even the currents of the air conditioning in this studio. It will be very difficult to try to put controls on it in such a way that normal currents of air that are present all the time would not move the pencil. For example, it moves very, very easily.
All right, you're not going to ask him to do that. That's one down, one to go, James. You are prepared to pay him $10,000 if he can turn the page of the telephone directory with certain controls.
That's
Is that
right.
You have the $10,000, do you, Randy?
I do indeed. It's right here.
I've carried this check now for going on 17 years, Bob. There it is, a check for $10,000 awardable to the gentleman should he be able to successfully perform the demonstration.
I would like to introduce our panel of judges. And our first judge here, Dr. John Palmer, is a psychologist and professor.
Since my theory, as yet unproven, of course, is that it's accomplished simply by blowing, though rather cleverly, I must admit, done, there should be a way, a simple way, without a lot of instrumentation, to demonstrate that fact by using one very simple control.
Now, let me just emphasize that this one control will not stop him from turning the page of the telephone directory.
That's right.
But you hope to the judge's satisfaction will demonstrate that he is doing it with his breath.
That's correct.
All right.
Now what I have here is particles of a white plastic, which when given a good puff, good heavy puff of air, will, I think, rather conclusively show whether or not blowing is a method accomplished.
Well, do you maintain that if the page of the telephone directory turns, that we will see movement in the styrofoam as well?
I think that it's pretty logical. We've experimented with it, Bob, and that's what we have determined in the experiments.
Very well. Are you ready to proceed?
I am indeed.
Judges, you're ready? James?
Ready? times am I going to have to do this? Once?
This time.
How many pages?
More. Just one page, once.
This time and once more.
Now, James, you had another question.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to ask?
Okay. The styrofoam and the lights form electricity which pulls the page. Look. It pulls the page down instead of freeing the pages.
All right, and what would you like to ask us to ask Randy to allow you to do or for me to do?
To either take something else, either lighter or something that is going to keep, that isn't going to form like static electricity.
You mean put something else, some other material around here?
Something that is not foam. Foam causes static electricity, and the lights is what heats it up.
All right, Randy, is there anything else that you can put around the telephone directory?
I've heard the question, but the question is not valid because it's making an assumption which is not true. The foam does not in any way create static electricity, and Mr. Heydrich, in demonstrating that the pages were clinging together, didn't demonstrate it to my satisfaction. I think we could perhaps ask the judges for their opinion on that. I am not a scientist, so I'm not qualified to declare on it.
Judges?
Whatever static electricity exists in the styrofoam would not really affect the movement of the page or the clinging of the pages together, in my opinion.
I would add that if this is in fact psychic functioning, I don't really see why that would make a difference.
Very well. Randy, would you allow me to turn perhaps half dozen pages and then put them back?
Oh, yes, you may do that, please.
James? I'll just lift up 1, 2.
Lift them in a bunch, if you would, Bob. Just take about 1/4 of an inch of them.
All right, there, like that?
That's fine. Gently, place them down gently so it doesn't disturb the foam. I know, I thought you
the other way?
Yeah, the other way. That's what I thought you meant.
Would that
Sure.
be helpful to you?
The static is going to still be here because of the foam. See, that's what I'm
Well, it is
saying.
the opinion of the judges that there is not enough static formed by the foam to be a problem. So, under the conditions agreed upon, it would seem that now you should at least try with psychic power to turn the page of the telephone directory, James.
Okay.
It's not going to turn for you?
No, it isn't.
Well, have you reached the point then when, at which we can declare the demonstration terminated?
This isn't a magician's trick. I can't just come up, bang, bang, and it's over. I have to be to where I can work with something small and then big, you know, to build up my own self. So this is, you know, it isn't a trick. It has to be done. You know, this is just, it's power. It's mental power.
The conditions agreed upon have been fulfilled. And of course we can't change the conditions now in midstream. So in the opinion of our judges here, you have not seen a demonstration of psychic power, have you?
Yes, that's correct.
You have not. And Randy, obviously James has not won the $10,000 with this demonstration.
So it seems.
Now, you have heard what James's explanation is. Do you have any comment to make on that?
Bob, the comment very briefly is that I have gone through many hundreds of these tests with many hundreds of people who claim to have psychic powers. And quite frankly, it's more or less the same story every time. When a simple, direct, very uncomplicated protocol is used and the control is applied, the psychic forces don't seem to be present, if indeed they are ever present at all. I still look for some sort of evidence of psychic powers. To date, I have not found any. Up to this very moment, I am still totally unconvinced.
One by one, Coram began to work out how Heydrich's feats were done. Most of them depended on an extraordinary ability to exhale a strong stream of breath without it showing on his face or lips. It was strong enough even to pass through any tiny gaps between the fish tank and the table. He had developed the page-turning effect while serving a prison sentence, using the Bible to impress fellow inmates.
And he would tell prisoners, if you will pray with me, the Holy Spirit will cause the pages of the Bible to turn. This was blasphemous. And he would actually blow on the pages. And a lot of times he'd let the inmate think that they were causing, the pages to turn.
Heydrich became confused when he saw Coram replicating his own psychic phenomena, and even thought that Coram might have genuine powers.
The toughest part, though, was exposing the tricks without causing him to become hostile, because he was a very dangerous individual.
Realizing that he had been found out, Heydrich agreed to make a full confession on camera.
I'm not going like that, because that can be seen. I am taking air from inside and causing it to come out in a way to where nothing here shows. My whole idea behind this in the first place was to see how dumb America was, how dumb the world is.
This woman is a witch, a charlatan, an idol worshiper, and she is in direct violation of the Most High Scriptures that condemns the paranormal, psychic powers, astrology, etc. Deuteronomy chapter 18 verses 9 to 14 says, When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not learn to imitate the detestable ways of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Because of these same detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out these nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. The nations you will dispossess listen to those who practice sorcery or divination. But as for you, the Lord your God has not permitted you to do so. Micah chapter 5 verses 12 to 15 says, I will destroy your witchcraft, and you will no longer cast spells. I will destroy your idols and your sacred stones from among you. You will no longer bow down to the work of your hands. I will uproot from among you your Asherah poles when I demolish your cities. I will take vengeance in anger and wrath on the nations that have not obeyed me. Jeremiah chapter 27 verse 9 says, Do not listen to your false prophets, fortune tellers, interpreters of dreams, mediums, and sorcerers who say, The king of Babylon will not conquer you. Isaiah chapter 47 verses 11 to 14 says, Disaster will come upon you, and you will not know how to conjure it away. A calamity will fall upon you that you cannot ward off with a ransom. A catastrophe you cannot foresee will suddenly come upon you. Keep on then with your magic spells and with your many sorceries which you have labored at since childhood. Perhaps you will succeed. Perhaps you will cause terror. All the counsel you have received has only worn you out. Let your astrologers come forward, those stargazers who make predictions month by month. Let them save you from what is coming upon you. Surely they are like stubble. The fire will burn them up. They cannot even save themselves from the power of the flame. These are not coals for warmth. This is not a fire to sit by. 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 17 says, And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger.